dust mite. Let's talk about one of the most common creatures you have probably never seen, even though millions could be living only a few feet away from you. Dust mites thrive inside mattresses, pillows, couches, carpets, curtains, and stuffed toys. Anywhere warm, slightly humid, and filled with tiny flakes of dead skin becomes the perfect neighborhood for them. They are unbelievably small. Imagine something much smaller than the head of a pin, closer to a grain of fine powder than an insect you could spot with your eyes. Under a microscope, they look surprisingly alien, with plump, pale bodies and tiny clawed legs. They are literally smaller than a grain of dust. The real power is their incredible ability to survive almost entirely on the dead skin cells that humans naturally shed every single day. Without biting, chasing, or attacking, they have evolved to turn your home into an endless buffet. For you, dust mites are not dangerous in the way spiders or mosquitoes are. They do not bite, they do not sting, and they do not inject venom. The biggest problem comes from proteins found in their waste and body fragments, which can trigger sneezing, itchy eyes, or allergies in sensitive people. For the mites themselves, every tiny skin flake is a complete meal. They never hunt. Instead, they patiently crawl through the fibers of your mattress, pillow, or carpet, feeding on microscopic skin flakes that fall naturally as you move through your day. It is one of the simplest survival strategies in nature, yet it has made them one of the most successful household creatures on Earth. The strangest part is that your bed becomes their busiest city while you sleep. Your body heat and moisture create perfect living conditions, allowing millions of these invisible creatures to thrive just beneath the surface of your bedding. But the next creature is even stranger because it spends almost its entire life living directly on your face. Demodex Mite. Let's talk about a microscopic animal that almost every adult carries without ever realizing it. Demodex mites spend their lives inside your hair follicles and oil glands, especially around your nose, cheeks, forehead, and eyelashes. They have adapted so well to living alongside humans that finding one on your skin is completely normal. They are about the size of a tiny eyelash clipping. Their bodies are long, pale, and shaped almost like miniature cigars, with 8 tiny legs crowded near the front. Under magnification, they look less like mites and more like tiny transparent worms with legs. Surprisingly, the power is their perfect body design. Their long shape allows them to fit neatly inside hair follicles, where they remain hidden for nearly their entire lives. Few creatures are so perfectly built for such a specific environment. For humans, they are usually harmless. They do not bite, sting, or inject venom. Most people never notice they are there. In rare cases, unusually large numbers may contribute to mild skin irritation. But for the vast majority of people, they quietly feed on natural skin oils and dead cells without causing any problems. They do not hunt in the traditional sense. Instead, they slowly crawl through hair follicles after dark, collecting tiny amounts of oil and organic material before retreating deep inside the pores as daylight returns. The weirdest fact is that these mites are mostly nocturnal. While you sleep, they emerge from your pores, wander across your skin to find mates, and then disappear again before morning. Your face becomes an invisible nighttime landscape that most people will never know exists. If that sounds unbelievable, wait until you meet the next creature, which can quietly invade damp corners of your home long before you even realize there is a problem. Mold mite. Let's talk about a creature that usually appears only after something has already gone wrong inside your home. Mold mites thrive anywhere moisture lingers for too long. You can find them in damp basements, bathrooms, kitchen cabinets, old books, stored food, or behind furniture pressed against a humid wall. If mold begins to grow, these tiny mites are often not far behind. They are about the size of a tiny speck of pepper. To your naked eye, they look like moving white dots, almost impossible to identify. Under magnification, they reveal soft, translucent bodies with delicate legs that constantly explore every surface around them. The real power is their incredible ability to locate mold long before most people even notice it. While you might not smell the musty odor for days or weeks, mold mites quickly discover fresh fungal growth and begin multiplying almost immediately. They are nature's microscopic mold detectors. For humans, mold mites are not dangerous. They do not bite, sting, or inject venom. At most, very large infestations may contribute to allergies in sensitive individuals. Their real target is mold itself. They spend their lives grazing across fungal growth, scraping away microscopic spores, and feeding on the organisms that flourish in damp environments. They never chase prey. Instead, they slowly wander across walls, cardboard, wood, and stored food until they detect fresh mold. Once they find a suitable patch, dozens can become hundreds in a surprisingly short time if moisture remains. The strangest fact is that seeing mold mites often means they are not the real problem. They are simply warning you that hidden moisture is allowing mold to spread somewhere nearby. In many cases, fixing the humidity solves the mite problem as well. But the next creature fools almost everyone because its name makes it sound far more dangerous than it really is. Booklouse. Let's talk about one of the most misunderstood insects you can find indoors. Despite the name, booklice are not true lice, and they have absolutely no interest in feeding on humans. They prefer humid rooms filled with old books, cardboard boxes, wallpaper, cereal packages, and forgotten storage areas where microscopic mold quietly grows. They are about the size of the tip of a sharpened pencil. Their bodies are pale cream or light brown, with oversized heads, long antennae, and soft, delicate legs. Because they are so tiny, many people mistake them for baby insects that have just hatched. Surprisingly, the power is their ability to survive almost entirely on microscopic fungi. They are not eating your favorite book because they love paper. Instead, they feed on the invisible mold, growing on glue, cardboard, and paper fibers. In many ways, they are cleaning up tiny fungal colonies that you cannot even see. For people, booklice are almost completely harmless. They do not bite, sting, or spread disease through direct contact. Their presence is simply a sign that the environment is too damp. For fungi, however, they are relentless grazers that spend their entire lives searching for fresh patches to consume. Their hunting method is slow but effective. They constantly explore cracks, shelves, and stacks of paper using their long antennae to detect tiny food sources hidden from human sight. Every bookshelf becomes a vast forest from their perspective. The weirdest thing about booklice is that they often disappear without a trace once humidity drops. Lower the moisture inside your home, and entire populations can vanish within weeks, making them one of the easiest household pests to control without chemicals. Now get ready, because the next tiny creature may be the greatest jumper in the microscopic world. Springtail. Let's talk about one of the smallest animals with one of the biggest athletic abilities on Earth. Springtails live in garden soil, flower pots, compost piles, leaf litter, damp basements, and even the moist soil inside houseplants. They have been around for hundreds of millions of years and can be found on nearly every continent. They are about the size of a sesame seed, although many species are even smaller. Most are gray, white, brown, or black with smooth, oval-shaped bodies. At first glance, they can easily be mistaken for tiny specks of dirt moving across the ground. The real power is an incredible built-in jumping mechanism hidden beneath the body. Folded under the abdomen is a spring-like structure that launches the animal into the air almost instantly. Relative to its size, the jump would be like a human leaping over a skyscraper in a single bound. For humans, springtails are completely harmless. They do not bite, sting, or spread disease. Instead, they feed on fungi, algae, decaying plants, and microscopic organic matter. Their work actually helps recycle nutrients back into the soil, making them an important part of healthy ecosystems. They do not hunt living prey. Instead, they slowly search through moist environments until they discover food. When danger approaches, they release their hidden spring and disappear so quickly that many predators lose track of them before they even land. The strangest fact is that some springtails can survive floating on the surface of water thanks to a special coating that repels liquid. Rain that would drown many tiny insects becomes another place where they can safely travel. The next creature looks much more familiar, but its young stage is responsible for almost all of the trouble. Carpet beetle larva. Let's talk about a household visitor that causes damage long before it ever becomes a beetle. Carpet beetle larvae live inside carpets, closets, upholstered furniture, stored clothing, bird nests, and forgotten corners where natural fibers collect. Many homeowners never notice them until holes begin appearing in valuable fabrics. They are about the size of a grain of rice. Their bodies are brown with alternating light and dark bands, and they are covered in thick, bristly hairs that give them the appearance of tiny fuzzy caterpillars slowly crawling across fabric. Surprisingly, the power is their remarkable ability to digest materials that many other insects cannot. Wool, feathers, silk, fur, leather, and even dead insects become valuable food sources thanks to specialized digestive enzymes. For humans, carpet beetle larvae are not aggressive. They do not bite or inject venom. However, the tiny hairs covering their bodies can sometimes cause mild skin irritation in sensitive people, similar to a minor allergic rash. Their real destruction is aimed at natural materials, where they slowly chew through fibers that may have lasted for decades. They hunt by searching patiently through dark, undisturbed places. Drawers, closets, air vents, and the edges of carpets provide perfect hiding places where they feed for months before finally transforming into adult beetles. The weirdest part of their life cycle is that the harmless adult beetle often feeds on flower pollen outdoors, while the hungry larva spends months quietly eating its way through your favorite sweater indoors. Two stages of the same insect live completely different lives. If you thought that was surprising, the next creature may already be hiding inside the food stored in your own kitchen. Flower mite. Let's talk about a creature so small that entire colonies can live inside a bag of flour without being noticed. Flower mites are common in kitchens, bakeries, food warehouses, and pantries where dry foods are stored for long periods. They are especially attracted to flour, oats, cereal, dried fruit, cheese, and powdered foods that absorb even a little moisture from the air. They are about the size of a grain of fine dust. Their bodies are creamy white, almost transparent, with tiny legs that are nearly impossible to see without magnification. To the naked eye, they simply look like a layer of moving powder. The real power is their ability to multiply at an astonishing speed. Given warmth, humidity, and enough food, a few flower mites can become thousands in only a matter of weeks. What starts as an invisible population can quickly spread throughout an entire pantry. For humans, flower mites are not dangerous. They do not bite or sting, and they carry no venom. However, heavily contaminated food should not be eaten because it may trigger allergic reactions in sensitive individuals. For the mites themselves, every grain of flour becomes a giant landscape filled with endless food. They do not hunt. Instead, they crawl continuously through stored food, feeding on tiny particles, fungi, and microscopic organic material. Their slow movement hides just how quickly their population can expand. The strangest fact is that a severe infestation can actually change the texture of flour. As thousands of mites move through it, the powder may begin to clump together and develop a slightly sweet mint-like smell. By the time you notice the change, the colony has often been growing for weeks. But even these pantry invaders are outmatched by the final creature, a survivor that can thrive in places where almost nothing else can. Grain mite. Let's talk about one of the most successful storage pests in the world. Grain mites are found in stored wheat, rice, corn, animal feed, seeds, and dried food products in homes, farms, and warehouses. Anywhere grains remain warm and slightly damp, these microscopic creatures have an opportunity to move in. They are about the size of a grain of powdered sugar. Their pale, glossy bodies are nearly transparent, making them almost invisible without a microscope. Despite their tiny appearance, they are constantly moving through the spaces between stored grains. Surprisingly, the power is their incredible resilience. When conditions become too dry or food runs out, grain mites can enter a special resting stage that allows them to survive until the environment improves. Few household creatures are so well adapted to waiting out difficult conditions. For humans, grain mites are generally harmless. They do not bite, sting, or inject venom. In very large numbers, they may contribute to allergies for people who regularly handle stored grain, but they pose little direct threat. Their real impact is on food supplies, where enormous populations can spoil stored products over time. They spend their lives crawling between grains, feeding on microscopic fungi, damaged kernels, and organic debris. Every sack of grain becomes an enormous maze filled with food, shelter, and places to reproduce. The weirdest fact is that grain mites have survived alongside human agriculture for thousands of years. Long before modern cities existed, they had already learned that wherever people stored food, a new home was waiting. We have reached the end of our expedition through household microcreatures. Now for the secret question. Which creature in today's video spends its nights crawling across your face before returning to your pores by morning? Leave your answer in the comments. Thank you for exploring with me. Stay curious and watch where you step,